Yeah. Anyway, and I looked at your response here. I just remember what I wanted to see. So, is it
Hey,
really
Judy.
only 22?
Judy,
They do stuff.
can I do this?
Hold on a second.
Can I do suspend participant activities?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't understand what you're trying to ask me.
Yeah.
It's okay, don't worry about it.
I was wondering that.
Is that a webinar or is that a regular meeting?
I have, no, this is just in the security settings. No worries.
What are you trying to do? Stop the chat?
Yeah,
I mean, the wheelchair thing didn't
Unclick
look
it.
like a real long. It's just like, you have to have it.
perfect. I did that and unmute themselves. No, no.
Yep, okay, I gotta get on here. I'm connected. So let me go find your email.
To answer your question, it might be 20, it might be 30.
No,
And is that
that's it.
straight uphill or is that
All right. It's level now.
Okay, everybody.
from the edge of your property?
Yeah.
I would like to call to order the regular meeting for the Woodstock Planning Board for November 7th, 2024. And we do have a quorum. We have the minutes to approve. Well, first of all, any updates to the agenda?
There's one, we did get a letter from Brad and the Arnsteins, and it was just the comments to CSAC, and you guys, I copied them and you have them right underneath. Keep going.
Okay,
Yes, no minutes.
so now we have the minutes from October 3rd. If everybody's okay with them, I'd like to make a
I need a
motion.
passcode.
All right, minutes, you do that while I multitask.
Oh, here, I found it. All right. Sorry.
459699.
Okay, in the minutes, everybody's okay with accepting the minutes?
Second.
All right,
Aye.
so.
Aye.
Aye. Under communications and announcements, we have an email from Laura Ricky regarding the short-term rental survey. We have an email from S. Kaplan regarding the Calamar Lane, which is Woodstock Gardens. We have an email from Laura Uwasaker regarding Woodstock Gardens. We have an email and a letter from Jeff Vigliamo, which he's the chair of the Como committee regarding Woodstock Gardens. We have a letter from S. Manuel regarding the Woodstock Gardens. And we have a letter from A. Randon Pisano regarding Woodstock Gardens. So those are all in and on the record. And we have one public hearing tonight, which starts at 6:05, but I will read the application first, and then we can open the public hearing. This is a Woodstock Gardens LLC, special use permit 22-0385, and special use permit 22-0667, and the Woodstock Wetlands and Watercourse permit 21-044. This is a public hearing for a site plan review and special use permit application to construct and operate a 7-unit motel in 5 buildings in the Hamlet Commercial Zoning District located at 1, 3, and 5 Calamar Lane in Woodstock. The rep is Brad Will of the Shokin Architecture, Eric Glad of Cutting and Fetter, and Medenbach and Eggers, and Lisa Fanto. So I still got a minute, but when I do open the public hearing, when the public has to address, please give your name to our secretary so she can write it down. And please address your questions to the board so that we can get the answers from the applicants. So I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion to.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, so we've got the introduction and the board is pretty familiar with the plans. We've been to site visits. This is I think our 4th review. So are there any members here who would like to speak? Please give your name.
Okay, so we're gonna do Contiguous neighbors first, which means that you abut the property line and you received a notice in the mail. Okay. Peggy, what was your last name? Malkin.
Malkin.
Okay, and what's your address?
131 Tinker Street.
131 Tinker Street. Is there anyone else here who abuts the property as a contiguous neighbor? What's your name?
Michael Platsky, Platsky.
And what's your address?
133A Tinker Street.
Okay, number
With his
2.
wife,
And his wife? What's her name?
Kathleen.
Thank you.
Platsky.
With a K.
I got that.
Wow.
Thank you. Look, I have my handy dandy list here.
You get extra credit.
I do.
Melissa, we have a letter that was sent to us from Rick Stengel, who's a property owner on Center Street side of Illinois.
Okay.
Read it into you if you want.
Why didn't he send it to me so the planning board had it ahead of time?
He just
sent
did
it
it. He's ill,
Okay, just,
so you can reach out to him.
okay, at the end, I'll put that somebody can read it. How's that?
Just to let you know.
Any other contiguous neighbors? Susan!
I'm reading this.
Thanks, Jeff. And
I'm continuing my 10 feet.
anyone else that abuts the property and received a notification? Okay, next will be Stephanie Kaplan, and she'll be speaking for her mother and her father, and she's gonna tell me their names.
Sure, Sandy Shuren, Bruce Levy, and Stephanie Kaplan in a combined comprehensive statement.
Okay,
Instead of 3 people speaking. I'll
You'll be
speak for all
number
3
4.
of us.
okay. Next, okay, we've got Sarah Yanash, and what's your address?
117 Tinker.
Do you need a reference? 129.
Thank you. Too busy writing all the names. Anybody else who would like to speak? That's fine. What's your name?
Bob Pearl.
Bob Pearl. Hi, Bob. What's address?
I just 59 Silver Hollow Road.
Perfect. All right, anyone else? We can add to this later. Yep. What's your name?
Ellison Hoffler.
Hi, Allison. And what's your address?
104 Orchard Lane North.
Okay. Anyone else? We can update it after, but we'll get through these. All right, so we're gonna do contiguous first. I'm going to ask you to come up. I'm going to hand you a microphone because being online, they can't hear unless you're using a microphone. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of my husband, my son, and my tenant next door.
Okay, I don't time clock you, but it has to be pertinent to the class and the board has a discretion to cut you off if they feel necessary. That's what it is, okay? We're gonna keep it running as smooth as possible. So we're gonna start with Peggy. Come on up.
Thank you. First, I want to say, before I actually get to the motel, that I want to express publicly my appreciation to Melissa Gray. I had to speak to her yesterday about a matter that has nothing to do with this, and she was so helpful and so gracious. And I was wrong, but the question I had to her, I was wrong. She did the research. She came back and was just absolutely, you're very lucky to have her because she deals with the public beautifully. Because I would imagine that most people were rolling their eyes where I couldn't see because we were on the phone, but I don't think she was. She was really wonderful about it. So I really wanted to thank her for that. Okay, my name is Peggy Malkin and I live at 131 Tinker, directly next door to the motel, the proposed motel. This is my only opportunity to speak tonight. That's it for 3 minutes, because if so, it's just, the applicant is a convicted federal felon. Convicted federal felon. He's been given multiple opportunities to present his plan, represent a different plan, change his plans many, many times, but we're only allowed 3 minutes. And I just feel that that's really not fair. We are the residents who are impacted most. I would venture to say that most of you faced with a commercial business going right next door to you would hope for more than 1 3-minute time to, allotted to speak. So I'm not going to try to pull rank here in any way, but I am the house most affected by this. I wrote all this down because I was afraid I would forget some of my points. My house is only a few feet away from one of the homes that burned down. If the wind was blowing a different way, I would have lost my home also. So I just can't understand why you would permit this hotel to be built, motel. My property has 2 houses on it, mine and a duplex next door. It came as a package. We had to buy both. My husband and I have owned it a little shy of 18 years. I believe that everyone in Woodstock is aware that there's an extreme shortage of housing for locals. Locals cannot find housing here. Whenever we have an apartment available, we get so many applicants and so many requests that I can't even respond to all of them. One of my girlfriends was born and raised here. She moved away for 1 year, came back 3 years ago and can't find anywhere to live. So I frequently let her stay at my house, but everyone, wait, I lost my place here. People would often suggest to us that we turn our house or the 2 apartments in the duplex into an Airbnb. And that was well before the moratorium. And the big mantra was, oh, you'll make so much money, you'll make so much money. We didn't buy the property as a business venture. We are not wealthy by any means, but we keep the rent very low because our tenants are longtime locals and people who have become like family to us. In fact, if you've ever made a site visit, we live in a cul-de-sac. And almost all of us in the cul-de-sac are like a family. We cooperate with each other. We are close to each other. Mr. Ornstein states that he has visited Woodstock many times. That's quite different from living here. We have paid taxes for 18 years. Some of my neighbors much longer than that. We have patronized almost every business in this town. My son works in this town. And speaking of business, I took the petition to almost every store owner downtown. Everyone signed it, everyone. You would think that that would be counterproductive to them because the more the tourists that the motel would bring in, the more, prospective business for them. But that's not what happened. Everyone signed it because no one wants Woodstock to change. There's a stream behind my house. I know you all know that stream. It's pristine. It's gorgeous. It's nature at its finest. I have deer, bears, blue heron, squirrels, and chipmunks all use the stream. I could sit and watch that stream for hours at a time. I really enjoy going to the station bar. It's charming, it's friendly. If you ever looked in the stream behind there, it's full of litter and butts and joints. It's going to be heartbreaking to see that replicated on my side of the stream, and it will be. We're going to have people staying at the hotel who are transient. They have no vested interest in the community. They're going to litter. They're going to make noise. And I know that you consider this a commercial area. It's not commercial. It's residential, light commercial. And there hasn't been anything commercial on that property in 25 years. I would think that somehow or other it's grandfathered in, that it's not really commercial anymore. People all around the United States are rebelling and revolting against overdevelopment and caving to business interests. Mr. Armstrong has but one agenda: to make a profit, to make money from this needless motel. The people that are staying there are going to be in and out, noise, signs blaring. Nothing about that is residential, and nothing about it matches the beautiful little community that we have there, which is all houses and nature. Please, I'm urging you and begging you, keep Woodstock true to its roots and history and character. Do not permit a motel, I keep saying hotel, motel, owned by a person with a very dicey background who will not be living on the premises. Please do not allow this to go forward. Woodstock has long been known as an artist colony, a hub of the counterculture, and a haven for those seeking a caring, compassionate, humane life and lifestyle. A community that encourages individuality. Can't Woodstock be a forerunner and for once just reject overdevelopment and commercialization? We have no need for this motel. Please consider some type of housing instead. It would be much more beneficial to the communities. I'm sorry, to the people in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, Michael Platsky and Kathleen.
It's gonna wait a while, but I'll go now.
Thank
I will attest to Peggy Malkin's honesty because she's my landlord. And the rent is incredibly affordable. And we have great neighbors. It took my wife and I 5 years to leave the affordable place we had because she wanted to cash in and sell it after refusing to do any repairs for 6 years. 5 years to kind of stand my ground and hold out there on Hillcrest Avenue. In fact, last time I was here, it was to speak against the Woodstock Way Hotel. I would count the lies they told when they were here for their application, but we don't have enough time. This town direly needs more affordable housing. There is a fire department. Where are the new volunteers coming from that work for the fire department and the rescue squad? Because the people that serve on those 2 squads are not coming out of $2-3 million private homes. They're coming out of really small, modestly priced houses or apartments. There's a school in this town that is in big trouble because they can't get enough students to go there. And we have a property that would be perfect for either modestly priced private homes or some kind of reasonable apartment complex where people might be able to move with their families, raise them here, and send them to school. Volunteer for the ambulance squad or the rescue squad. I've also been told by reasonably wise sources there has never been one day in this town where every hotel room in the hamlet has been booked on the same day. Seems to me there are available hotel rooms anytime anyone wants to come and live in Woodstock for 72 hours. We need more permanent residents. We need to be more friendly to the citizens of this town. Now, I don't know what kind of boundaries you guys have as far as a new rule, a no new hotel in the hamlet rule. If that's something that has to come from the town board first, I'll be there on Tuesday with the same speech. So I really ask you people, and it would be beneficial to the citizens of this town if the planning board sent an email out of the town board and said, help us and the residents of this town institute a no new hotel in the hamlet rule. There's Airbnbs, there's hotel rooms aplenty. Thank you. I appreciate you people. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
you. Thank you. Kathleen, do you want to say also?
I'd just like to say a few words. I'm a home health care worker. I have been for 40 years. When I came to Woodstock, I have given 15 years to the Woodstock Rescue Squad. I've come through the whole ranks of the squad from EMT to lieutenant to president of the Woodstock Rescue Squad. And all these years, we have extreme trouble keeping our ambulances going because people don't have a place to live in this town. Most of our EMTs sleep at the building because they live out of our town and they volunteer in our town. This is not right. We need to have affordable housing in the hamlet. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff. Mr. Vigliamo. Mr. Vigliamo is the chairman for the Como Stewardship Advisory Council. He and a bunch of other committees. Sorry, committee. Oversee the Como property.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Planning Board, for letting me talk. We're writing this letter as members of the Como Stewardship Advisory Committee and wanted the town of Woodstock to formally consider the impact of the access proposed in this building project and to consider some additional requests. Sort of assuming that it's going to go forward, so we want to see if we can mitigate the impact to the property here. As we are sure you are aware, the Como is a unique town property with many different habitats ranging from agricultural fields and woodlands to streams and a vernal pool. The 73-acre property is also abundant with many other natural resources which are protected within the Como's conservation easement, which was granted to the town and enforced by the Woodstock Land Conservancy. This deed clearly identified uses and guidelines that govern its permitted usage, all of which are outlined in the town's Como Stewardship Management Plan. A stream, Tannery Brook, runs across these 3 adjoining properties on Calamar Lane, contiguous with the northern border of the Como. The Calamar Lane property owner has applied to build a bridge across the stream on this property and a path which will encourage tenants to climb the wooded embankment to gain direct access to the Como property. There is currently no existing trail to connect with. I will address your response. As an advisory committee to the Woodstock Town Board, we urge the Planning Board to consider additional asks of the developers to mitigate impact to the property. Since the plans are to develop a trail up the hill to the property line, we highly encourage that it is included as a connector trail to the northwest corner of the existing parking area, so as to have your visitors enter the property as others do. A problem with trail systems is that when people leave the marked trail, degradation of the woods and fields is increased. Design of a path, sighting, and surface could be further discussed. Is a short distance, yet without a marked path, people will not know where they should go. We do not want them to enter the agricultural field, nor the Historical Society lawn area. It should not be a cost to the town to complete a path to your visitor access. Your response said that there's already a path there that goes into the agricultural field. And the problem with that is that field is being trampled down. It's there to be hayed at the appropriate times of the year by Matt Longyear, who does share the hay with other people in the town. So it's not just his economic benefit, but many of the contiguous landowners on this north side have cut paths into the field and have left them less haying ability. So I encourage to connect to the parking lot where there's signage, where there's a kiosk describing the area, and people can stay on the paths. Number 2, since our mission to increase appreciation of this property, that's one of our missions, we would highly encourage signage on your side of this path, highlighting the above stated unique aspects of this piece of land. Some ideas have been used in our kiosk and could easily be adapted for the sign. Need not be large nor all encompassing, but should include directions to the path and why it's important to stay on them. I understand that you're okay with us building some sort of small informational piece. I appreciate that. Number 3, we further request that this new access to the town's property from Calamar Lane become a new entrance to the Como for everyone. Since this access is being proposed by a private owner to a public property for your benefit, we ask that a right-of-way be granted, allowing anyone from Tinker Street access through your proposed development. Planning for this inevitable occurrence will be in everyone's best interest. I know that you're going to feel that this is private property. As soon as there's a path from this property going down the hill, there will be people using it. We cannot stop them from doing it. We've seen what happens in the trail system here. People walk where they want to. And if we don't put down a trail for them and keep them on it, this property is just going to get further and further degraded. We have problems with our trail system already as it exists. So I'm really I really want to push this point, because if you're naive enough to think that people aren't going to go back down there to access Tinker Street, it's going to be a surprise. And given that the town has yet to do any sort of sidewalk preparation along Como Drive here, it'll be a much safer way for people to get back down to Tinker Street, and it will be used. So you may as well be ready for it. Number 4 was something about the fire pit, which I guess you've mitigated with a gas powered one and on-off switches. Again, this is, you've seen, this is very dry this fall, and open fires in town without an overnight supervisor is fraught with danger and catastrophically could ruin this property and this building that's just been renovated. Since none of these asks are outrageous or costly given the scope of this project, we hope that you will take these requests into serious consideration in the finalization of your approval process. Sincerely, Jeff Filiamo, Chair of the Como Stewardship Advisory Committee.
Peter, can I ask Jeff some questions?
Sure.
I just brought the map up here.
Yeah.
Now, that yellow outline is roughly the property line. I mean, roughly because we know that those are not accurate. The red represents a greater than 25% slope.
Yep, that's pretty steep.
And then the other red line, that thin red line, those are 20-foot contour lines. So it flattens out. So you're proposing to have them what, go up the corner of their property and
Wherever
over
this-
to the
Wherever
parking
this
lot?
path comes up, it
Yeah.
can easily be a little meandering one up to the corner of the parking lot.
But not through the
Yes.
field.
We
Away
prefer
from the
people
field.
not to go through the fields and not end up over at the Historical Society. Historical Society lawn is soaking wet most of the time. I know not right now, but we've already seen property owners down here cutting paths into the field, extra paths up. Everybody can see the one running up Sled Hill over here, which has historically been there, so Matt loses that part of the mowing there. The problem with most of these paths is that they end up getting littered or sticks thrown by dogs. All these things wreck his mower when he's trying to hay the place, so.
And there really isn't a good way that you can get around having to go over that 25% slope. Although it's not a very long distance, it is still very steep.
Yeah, I think their path was proposed to be meandering a bit
Right,
too, because you
right.
have to meander
It
this
would
thing.
have to be.
I mean, some of us can hike straight up it, but if you're gonna have people who
We're
aren't
gonna have some
really,
nice broken legs if they try to do that.
yeah, I mean, that was the concern for most of our people, for my committee, was that people get
So
hurt.
are you guys more comfortable with them going through the woods? Are there ways to create?
Yeah, it's not a very tight woods anymore with the deer
Okay.
browse going on in the state. We could easily make a sighted path that would work pretty well. We've walked that ourselves already, so, a couple
So the
saplings
applicant
cut.
really ought to consult with you and find some way to map out where they would put a trail and it would.
Yeah, it'd have to
parking
be,
lot.
we'd have to consider the Woodstock Land Conservancy too. But I've spoken to their folks and they feel like you gotta do something. You can't just take a path and let it go.
And if there's no path, because they have a right to that.
Yeah, there's something that runs
clientele
along
on
the
that
ridge.
side.
There is something that runs along the ridge in here. Might just be a deer path, for all I know. I know there was someone squatting up in there for a while that was cleaned up by my daughter a couple years ago. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful property. Why not?
okay. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I also have another member from CSAC here, so I'm just gonna let her, you wanna speak?
Could I add something?
Sure, of course. This is Pat Jackson. She's also a member on CSAC. You have to come up and speak into the microphone.
I'm concerned about the,
Wait until you're
Yeah,
on.
you
wait
have to
until
use the
you're on.
microphone. Announce who you are.
Pat Jackson from CSAC. And I feel like the town really has to investigate the legality of them, a private business, having a pathway onto a public resource that has an easement on it. Because this is not allowed by adjoining property owners normally. When it's happened, they've been considered in violation. But I just want to say, If the walkway is only accessible to Calamar Motel guests, it becomes a private property entrance to a public property, allowing a private business to profit from a public resource. There's something that has to be examined about that. I guess it just doesn't seem right.
No, it doesn't.
And I can't imagine that a private entrance to this property with the easement would even be allowed, but so I'm urging you to investigate that. And I have a feeling, I think if there is a new trail, it's got to be for the public. There can't be private access. And it will be used by other people. And I think that should be examined of whether this should be a public trail, a new entrance to the Como property. Because that's what's going to happen. Okay.
That's the bell. You wanna talk?
You suggesting a separate new entry to the Como property?
I'm suggesting if they run a pathway onto the Como, which they're doing, it's a new entrance.
So is every other property connected to Como.
But they're,
Every one of them can walk onto Como.
No.
Unaided, they don't need a permit.
no, but it's really not really allowed.
Who says that?
Another
Who
bed
said
and
it's not
breakfast,
allowed?
another bed and breakfast.
It's a public facility. Who stops it?
I don't know. A B&B down,
Please no comments.
a
Can I
B,
say something more? John, I think the scope of what they're proposing is bringing in, what, 5 buildings, 7 tenants of multiple people. So at any given time, they're gonna have perhaps 25 people there that are gonna have access to a public property that right now is having major challenges getting maintained.
No.
And-
Absolutely,
and-
no argument there. No argument.
And one of the problems when you don't have a designated path on a property is people wander everywhere and basically degrade the property. The hillside above their land will start to break away because the vegetation will be trampled. What holds the hillside there will start to die back, and there'll be problems.
Jeff, what happens with no designation of the property? What happens at that point? What you're saying is what's going to happen. That's unfortunate, but that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Aren't we here to protect our town properties?
How? How are we gonna do that?
We keep them on a trail.
can you look into that?
We just keep them on a trail. That's my point.
Keep them on a trail.
Mm-hmm.
Easier said than done.
But you got to build the trail. If you don't build a trail, there will be no.
I understand that, and I support you 100%.
Mhm.
But the question really is, the enforcement of that is huge. And it's something that this town has never owned up to.
Here, here. There's no argument here.
One voice.
With that.
No argument here on that.
Okay. Good.
I'm good.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that there's no one else contiguous neighbor that abuts the property in the audience.
I am a contiguous neighbor, but I don't wish to speak.
But you don't wish to speak. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna continue on. If I don't have you on my list, I will be sure to ask again. I'll account for you. So next up is Sarah Yanash. Oh, yeah, you're right, Stephanie, you were first and I just
Okay, it's actually not just me. Instead of having 3 people speak, I'm going to give the comprehensive statement for my family.
So
We are
this is Stephanie Kaplan. Her mom and dad is Sandy Shuren and Bruce
Levy.
Levy,
Yeah,
and they are located at 129 Tinker.
we're in the same cul-de-sac with Peggy and with Kath and the Platskis. We would be continuous, but for about a 10-foot strip of land. So just so you understand. Close enough. So unfortunately for us, you've made it clear you're going to approve this project. We believe you're wrong to do so.
Terrible assumption on your part.
We've been told that.
I'm sorry that you've been told, but we haven't made up our minds.
Well, then that's fantastic news. I appreciate that. We have actually been told this is going through. So I could have changed this around, but I'll
Tell me why I interrupted my dinner to get here on time.
I was a little confused why public be heard was being done after you made a decision. So if that's not true, not only do I apologize for that, but I'm thrilled to hear that. But let me just say, let me start with some edits that we're requesting. Peter, I've heard you say repeatedly, this board has gone far to protect the neighbors from the impact of this project. And there certainly have been some edits, but we don't feel that, respectfully, we don't feel it's gone far enough. We are asking for more changes, including the following. First, no fire pit. I don't know why we're even still talking about a fire pit, because very simply, an unattended fire pit is unlawful. You may have allowed others to have fire pits, and if they were unattended, it's illegal. Doesn't justify allowing this here. That they recently agreed to change to propane rather than wood recognizes the threat in this fire pit, and it doesn't address the problem at its most basic level. It is unlawful if it is unattended. Period. End of story. Ridiculous are claims from them that being near the waterway makes it safe. I mean, do you really expect clients to go running to the brook and fill their hands with water to splash out an out of control fire? Moreover, this certainly doesn't meet DEC standards for protecting an area from a fire caused by a fire pit. Also, potentially ridiculous is any claim that the presence of clients make it attended, when they have no duty to care for it when they walk away. They have no duty to put it out properly. They have no duty to use it safely. This argument envisions being able to sue a client for the consequences of their unattended fire from an unattended fire pit, and that's ridiculous. The fire pit should just be put aside. Furthermore, you must recognize the trauma of allowing any fire pit, no less an unattended illegal one, that it brings to us neighbors who have been sandwiched now by 2 major fires. I think of my parents and the pets evacuated into their cars in the middle of a cold night, watching the flames as they moved towards them, waiting for hours in a car to see if they needed to flee, and who, but for the last minute change of a wind direction, would have lost their homes due to the fire. This is the reason the property became available in the first place. We beg you to care about us, but more importantly, we beg you to simply follow the law and don't allow unattended fire pits on this property. We also ask for no large sign, especially not one lit up at night. We all bought our homes in a back area off the main road that is rural and residential, and had been so for over 100 years. An unforeseeable fire changed that, but we bought here so we could look out of our homes. We, along with our neighbors, wanted to be able to see nature and animals and trees and the environment. Do not change our views to a monstrosity of a lit up sign that you would see out your window of a Bowery flophouse in some old movie. Do not allow them to shine these lights into our homes, with our only recourse being to block the windows, block out the views, and block out the reason we live here in the first place, just so they can advertise something they can do in many other ways. We also ask that you don't allow these outer balconies where people who are paying lots and lots of money are going to be unconcerned with neighbors and will play music or party and be loud late into the night after the town has closed up. And especially when we have no one to call for help, since there will be no nighttime attendant. Keep in mind that one of the first lies they told this planning board was that the family was keeping one house for themselves, and thus someone from the family would always be on the premises. That was their word to you. But knowing who you're allowing into this community, we are not surprised at another bait and switch. And because of that, we will have no recourse, as we are foreseeably disturbed in this way. These are the most simple of requests, things you can grant if you really care about the impact of this project will have on the quality of life of the neighbors. But more than edits to the plan, we advise and request caution. This project is not yet ripe for a vote, as there are a number of outstanding issues that must be concretely resolved before you should decide what to do and how far to go. First, the fire department has told you that the sight lines at the Tinker Street end of Calamar Lane must be changed before any project could be approved. This property is not owned by Michael Ornstein. So you have repeatedly asked about an agreement with the actual owner, and you have been told all is well. We do not believe this. We are more than skeptical when their representative keeps assuring you that he has a written agreement for road maintenance with the owner of the properties on Calamar Lane nearest Tinker Street, an agreement that would let them make changes to the required sight lines. I am certain no written agreement has been provided to you, and Greg Stengel has a letter for you that we can provide to you as well. He's written you before, and he's written again tonight. But I have spoken repeatedly to the owner of that property. He denies ever being contacted by anyone from this project about this. He denies being shown any agreement. He denies signing any agreement. And he has emailed this board saying he will not allow the changes on his property that the fire department would require before you could approve this project. Someone is not being straight here. And until you see something in writing verified by Mr. Stengel that it was signed by Mr. Stengel and is not a forged signature, this project is not ripe to vote on. Keep in mind, we're dealing with an owner with dishonesty in his background. Apparently, having previously been willing to forge a federal judge's signature on purported court orders multiple times, which he then used by serving forgeries on an opposing party. And we've seen that dishonesty at work here when we saw that when the plan was initially put forward for long-term housing, that only changed after they got you to approve the bridge initially proposed to accommodate the traffic made by a small handful of long-term residents who would presumably respect their property and surroundings. So I submit that the burden is on you to make triple sure that everything is actually in place, documented, and on the up and up before going forward with a vote. To that end, we request you impose a significant bond held in escrow and payable to the town if it is discovered that these owners act contrary to their claims and contrary to their responsibilities. We don't want a repeat of the Woodstock Way situation. We do not want to be in the situation where we are left with no recourse. We want assurances that if non-organic chemicals are used, or if they unlawfully dig out the bottom of the Tannery Brook to make a swimming hole without proper permitting and change the course of the water flowing in the brook, if they act contrary to the scope of what you approve or contrary to our laws, that we in the community have recourse. And finally, for the community, there has been requested and needs to be an up-to-date traffic report before you decide on this project. The one you are relying on is wildly out of date. The impact of traffic from this project on the community cannot be evaluated by the content of a traffic report created before COVID and created before the influx of new residents. I live right next door. There are times right now when I have to wait upward of 5 minutes to get out of my driveway. This project can make life very difficult for residents and, more importantly, for emergency vehicles needing to get into town. We believe these requests are reasonable and required to protect those of us who are neighbors, to protect the community, to protect the wildlife and our environment. Lastly, 1 minute. I'm sorry, I just lost my stuff. We have been told, well, we understand that this area is zoned mixed residential and commercial, but we believe that you can deny this project fully based on the fact that no solely commercial enterprise has been in existence in the midst of these residences for decades. That should be seen to negate the zoning rules and permit you to deny the project. We believe you can also deny this project in particular because it is the equivalent of an end run around the STR laws. The zoning rules that govern this part of town should not be considered more important than the STR rules. Instead, they should be read together. After all, this owner first proposed to restore the 4 buildings lost in the fire for the purpose of having people live there on a long-term basis. And only after hearing they could not Airbnb did they change this to a motel complex. There is no qualitative difference between what the owner is proposing and what a private person does in renting out a room or a building as a short-term rental. We have a long wait list for that privilege. And out-of-town developers like the Ornstein should not be permitted to jump the line ahead of our own residents who have been patiently waiting their turn. Instead, this owner should be held at the very least to the same STR standard and at the very least be sent to the back of the line behind our Woodstock residents who are already there. We believe you can deny this project because it conflicts with the comprehensive plan, which outlines public policy and what we want in order to keep and promote the character of community. This project fails to do that. We do not need another room to rent, especially at exorbitant prices. There has never been a time when all the available rooms in Woodstock have been rented. That's according to your supervisor, our supervisor. And when in long-term and affordable housing are an urgent need, this will do nothing to solve those problems. And remember, over 2 years ago, we already submitted information showing over 1,700 people had signed a petition against this project, begging this planning board to uphold the themes of the comprehensive plan and to keep a sense of community. We believe you can deny this project because of how it negatively impacts our environment, our wildlife, our neighborhood. And I want to end with one story. When asked, we were actually contacted, two of us, by the representative, Brad Will, and he asked what our objections are. And he did that not to work with us, but as it turns out, just to prepare a defense to what our objections were. And when he asked why Mr. Ornstein wouldn't go back to his plan of replacing the houses, of giving people a place to live. Of course, not affordable housing, but houses where money could be made. And the answer was Ornstein was dug in. And then they tried to they said a weird thing, that they were going to, if we really kept pushing it, they would put in affordable housing complex. The implication being it would negatively affect the worth of our homes. The meeting ended shortly after we explained we would welcome that, and we would welcome affordable homes for our neighbors. These are people who do not care about Woodstock. True to form, they only care about making money at any cost. And this is this the Woodstock you want Woodstock to be?
Hi, I'm Sarah Yanish, and I live next door. So I'm at 117 Tinker, and I look out my window at the face of a deer that comes to visit me in my bedroom window every day. Who probably won't be visiting me under construction, and who almost gets hit by a car nearly every day, because we haven't had a traffic study in this town since 2018, pre-COVID population boom, right? And we all know this. So I watch cars pass one another, flying past my home, which is enough noise, honking at each other, enough noise, but flying past each other, nailing other animals, passing on the double yellows daily. We don't have enough police to monitor that. So imagine this, we don't have enough volunteer EMTs, like my neighbors said. Forget about the environmental impact. Everything my neighbors said is true. But now we're going to talk about the lies. Okay, this person started out lying. You're going to buy this as residential property. Great. Welcome, new neighbors, because I miss some of the old folks that lived in the houses that burned. It's really unfortunate someone knocked over a candle in a mess. And it lit homes on fire. Homes. We need homes here. Do you know how rough it is to live here as a renter? It's tough. And I understand that we don't have great enforcement. I agree. We do not have great code enforcement here. So anyone who's been subject to that and having to move because of our lack of code enforcement, it sucks. So I can't imagine if the lies continue, because it's been one after another after another. Like I came up here all these summers. I've been swimming in the stream my whole life. Nah, I'd recognize you. We're around the same age. Never saw your body at where we used to be able to swim, which is now Woodstock Way. They got enough questionable variances. So I don't need after the fact problems when we're talking about digging a new swimming hole for whomever is going to be looking into my bedroom windows besides the deer. I don't need it. I don't need to know that someone just scrubbed as much history as they could on YouTube, but not enough. So they can create their Woodstock Fruit Festival, which has nothing to do with Woodstock whatsoever, and then take their lives to Hawaii because this isn't good enough here. They hate the weather, but love Woodstock so much, it doesn't make sense to bring your token children to this meeting and hate my town, but need to share it with Woodstock. I sat here at these meetings. I heard, can't wait to meet the neighbors, watch somebody walk out of a room and try to run out of this vestibule. We've met. I don't hear lies anymore. So that Woodstock Fruit Festival took him to where? Hawaii, where the interview that wasn't scrubbed, he was chuckling about his federal offense, fraud, where he called his stay there club fed. You know how insulting that is? I try to do everything right and I get screwed. So when somebody's a fraud, we just had our country taken by a fraudulent felon, so I don't want my town taken that way.
Please stay on the topic.
And
Thank you.
okay. But you know, when it's a little hard, I'm sorry. This is really, really personal for me because it's a
You're
struggle
really getting way over time.
to be here. But we've also got 2 sidewalk projects, right? We've got the DOT. Nobody can get in touch. It's always a problem. Nobody can get in touch with the DOT. We passed the buck. DOT. This is the subject. Traffic is going to affect us. And we have not had a traffic study since 2018. We do. I talked with Howard Cohen today. And we have a
town board issue, not a planning board issue.
Well, then
Commissioning a
we need
study
to
is a
start
town
talking
board
to
issue.
each other, which is what I speak about
Speak
it.
to the town board
I
about
am
it,
speaking,
please.
I'm asking you to speak with the town board as well as
We do
your
it all the
board.
time.
I know you
We don't
try.
get anywhere,
I
but we do
know
it
you
all the
try.
time.
I know you try, and we have to demand accountability
Sir, wrap
from
up.
that plan board. And now I'm gonna
Way
read
over
to
3
you to
minutes.
just prove my point about whys. I'm going to read to you what Greg Stengel sent. He says he sent it to this board, but he sent it to me tonight because I spent time on the phone with him today and he's appalled. So the owner of those blue houses says he hasn't spoken with Michael Arnstein for over 2 years. And I'm sorry, this does not please you. I see you're busy texting while my neighbors are speaking, and that's also insulting to me. The smirk doesn't help. But this is what
I'm
Greg
taking
Stengel,
notes,
this
yes.
is what Greg Stengel says. I am Gregory Stengel, owner of 121 Tinker Street, 123 Tinker Street, and 125 Tinker Street. These are the only properties bordering Calamar Lane between Tinker Street, Route 212, and Mr., he says, Aaronstein's newly acquired property. I've entered into no road maintenance agreement and no other agreement of any kind with Mr. Aaronstein. Right. I have only spoken to him once several years ago when he first acquired the property and have proposed 3 homes. This is from Greg Stengel, like I said. I'm firmly opposed to the granting of a variance to the permit, a short stay motel in the middle of a quiet residential neighborhood. And that was then. I'm concerned about the increased traffic on a narrow driveway and the disturbance of my tenants by visitors who will put their trash in my garbage bins, okay, play loud music at night, cars going back and forth at night on Calamar Lane, loud and other disturbances. Please let's preserve the peace and quiet for people who live in residential areas of the village and not turn the entire village into a party scene. Gregory Stengel, 121 Walworth Avenue, Scarsdale, New York, 10583, 914-725, 1461.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Bob Pearl, come on up.
All right, well, I get to be the foil tonight. I'll go home.
Send them all home? How nice of you.
No, I don't want to hear about the opposing view. But Bob Pearl, I've been up here for over 30 years, homeowner, first part-time, then for a while, full-time resident. I've helped people open businesses here and have my own and love this town. I don't know this guy, Mike. I'm hearing some negative things about him, but I do know his architect who asked me if I'd speak. From what I've seen, you're very low density here. 11% of the land is actually being built on, which is 1/5 of what the actual density might permit. So it seems like there's moderation there. I understand there's no variance here. But really, the reason I'm speaking in favor of this is my view is that this town is doing really well. And what's special about this town is we have so much going for us. The most beautiful scenery, yes, the wildlife you're talking about, a great retail operations, beautiful restaurants, an art scene. There's so much that brings tourists up here. And it's enviable to have this strong a commerce that keeps these stores. We don't have vacant stores here. We have a really vibrant economy with everything we could really want in the town. And I'm sure some people like a quieter town. They exist, but this town is vibrant, has a great scene and nightlife for all of us. And these businesses are owned by locals. They are almost entirely run by locals who are employed here. So, I do know a lot of people who work here. And, from what I see, I see a lot of local people working here. And if they come from Kingston, well, I could consider that local too. They're not, however, I think that there is not a ton of lodging here. We have 64 units like this plus Airbnbs, and people complain massively there shouldn't be Airbnbs. And so, and we put a moratorium on that. So to say there's 64 units and 7 units is going to destroy the nature of the town. It's going to create traffic, 7 units. That's not realistic. I don't find that to be a serious argument, but I'm sure in your minds it's going to, it's going to chase all the deer away. I don't think those are real things. I do think it will bring commerce to the town, even back of the envelope. And again, I realize that some people may not want people to come here with money and spend money, but the town, it is good for the townspeople and the people who come here and work here. So I think it could bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars outside from the average spending, just back of the envelope. And that's something that's good for the town. I recognize to everyone else in here, this is a NIMBY issue. It matters to you. This is your homes. You may want to fight to change the zoning because you want to increase your property rights. But zoning has been here. I'm not sure if it was here before you bought your homes or maybe you came in and rented after the zoning was in place. But there's a reason why there's zoning as long as it's thoughtful and it needs to be respected. And of course, there's a reason why you have these meetings to modify, to make the changes, to protect the Cuomo property. So you put a lot of work into this. I thank people who put this type of volunteerism in. It's really what makes this town run so well. So thank you for that. And I'm sorry if I don't agree with you. I hate not to be your enemy. I hope not to be your enemy. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
Glad you're not my enemy. Thank you. Alison Gobler?
Thank you. And thank you, board, for doing this often thankless work. I'm Allison Koffler, and I live on the opposite side of the street from Calamar Lane. So, what will happen there or doesn't happen there won't affect me as directly as some of the other folks who are sitting here. But I guess I am sort of thinking about that idea of the impact that this kind of development has on the town. People talk about, tourists wanting to come to Woodstock because they want to partake in that community, that arts community, this place that's legendary for its music and all of that stuff. But the people who are the creators, who do that sort of work, are not able to live here anymore. And this was sort of a betrayal. I mean, when this project was first mentioned, there was that idea that this would provide maybe not really low-cost housing, but some sort of sense of permanence, that there would be people living there who are contributing to the community. And that's clearly not the case. And there always has sort of been this dichotomy between there being an art scene here and there being people, making money around the side of that. But I feel that the balance of that is really tipping these days, and that Woodstock is well on the way to becoming a total fake Disneyland version of, what it has been for more than 100 years. So, just that being said, and I guess also the access to the Como thing is ridiculous. The town is going to have to be the ones who will be dealing with the people who go up that steep hillside and break their legs. That fire pit thing is ridiculous. It's an insult to people who live through fires on that property. And it's ridiculous, the idea that no one is going to be attending to that illegal fire in the first place. It's ridiculous that we're thinking of that idea of that attending to how emergency vehicles are going to get down that narrow road without there being a clear path to the legality of that. There are so many things about this plan that are just so fishy that it as a Woodstock resident, it makes me feel very uncomfortable and very sad. So I guess that's really my 2 cents. Most other people have said most of the things that I wanted to say, which is a good thing. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. I want to thank the audience for keeping their moans and groans to a minimum. I appreciate that very much. Anyone else that is a contiguous neighbor or anything? Is there anyone else that wants to speak besides one person I see? 2 people. Okay. First you. Come on up. And then John, you're next. What's your name, sir? Well, I can hear. It's just they can. Hi.
My name is Erwin Rosenthal. I live at 110 Pinker Street in Woodstock. I'm going to try and keep this as brief as I can. First of all, I really do want to join everyone else in thanking you all for taking on the burden of listening to us. I realize it is taxing, and I applaud you for that.
Not a burden.
In a word, or let me make it in 3 short sentences. We live at 110 Pinker Street. My wife and I, we endure the sound of traffic constantly. We have difficulty getting in and out of our driveway. We know that the sidewalks are inadequate, and it continues to get worse. This project, in a very small way, will worsen all of that. So in a few words, no new noise, no new lights, no new traffic, or to quote the legendary revolutionary Nancy Reagan, just say no.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
John
please.
Ludwig. I have a question that I'll bet you've discussed this, and I'm sorry I haven't been to previous meetings. The site distance coming out of Calamar Lane, does the planning board have a position on that? Do you say it's adequate?
Let me answer a couple of these questions. This, of course, is in Hamlet commercial area. And therefore, we have asked that the highway department, we have asked the building department, there are no variances. So the building department has said that everything is in compliance. And the highway department said it's in compliance. In that particular area you're talking about, the state is going to redo that whole part of the highway. And they're going to redo the sidewalks, they're going to take down all the brush, just like they did going by the Playhouse. They cut down everything, all the forsythia, in order to do the same thing. The highway, the state, and that will be done by the state.
Right.
The state highway.
Right, and
Highway.
I would imagine that, it's public parking there, and I use that public parking there on the street. It's useful parking. I gotta believe we're gonna lose some spots there. Has the planning board talked about that, considered that?
We've gone over all the issues. relevant to the project. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, last chance. Anybody else? Okay. I think we should give, if Brad, Sam, or Victoria would like to speak, I think we should let them speak. Board? You don't even need to speak in your up here.
You can say something if you like.
It's up to you.
Comic.
All right.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of my husband. I am not a business person by any stretch. I'm a stand-up comedian. I just want to make people laugh. That's all I care about. Michael Arnstein's my husband. I would like to just address something about his federal case. Sometimes you find that people aren't really as guilty as you think they are. And in his case, I will defend that till the end, because what happened with him was an employee was disgruntled and took about, 50 or more people to write against our company, because the guy was from India and he had all those resources. And he wrote horrible Yelp reviews that were fake and fake websites against the company. And he had to get a judge's name on that. And my husband hired a lawyer that was so much money that he said he couldn't afford the lawyer to do it anymore. So he took it upon himself to take off these fake websites. And in order to do that, you need a lawyer because it's a judge's name on it. So that was considered forgery. And my husband went to jail for 9 months for that. And I almost got divorced because of it. So I just want to defend him on that, because not everything is as it seems. Just you don't pit somebody just because you think that they're fraudulent. He's not a fraudulent man. In fact, he's so good that he has some places in Sri Lanka where he has an office. He has an orphanage there after the Sri Lanka tsunami, and he didn't have to do that. And everything he does is on the up and up over there. Okay, so you guys can go research that too, and you haven't been doing that. So I want to defend him on that. And I understand your concerns. We did go to Woodstock Inn every single year for years. I took my children there. I'll show you pictures. We're not lying. Okay. It was hard to get a reservation every single time. We wanted to come with family and friends. We couldn't. We had to come alone because there was no room. So that was that. And we really felt like people we were even taking my children's friends that had no money. We were taking them with us just because we wanted them to see something outside of a city. I live in Manhattan now. People come from all over and we don't kick them out. We are very happy to have them there. It helps the economy. It's a joyous thing to share. That's how we feel as city residents. But it is fair to say that city people would like to see the nature that happens inside Woodstock. And we did have a Woodstock Fruit Festival, which, by the way, was to stop people from killing animals. That's the reason why he did it. My husband was a vegan and he wanted to stop people from eating animals. So he created a festival for people like himself to come from all over the world, and 1,000 people would come every year. And he did this nonprofit. He made no money. In fact, he lost money, and we, again, almost separated because of it, because he was taking all our money that was supposed to go into our home, and he put it into the Woodstock Fruit Festival. So people from around the world will all get together and meet people, and people have met and had kids there. They've had kids, they've gotten married and had kids. So good things come out of things that you think is probably really bad. What my husband did in Sri Lanka, he made an entire neighborhood. He fixed roads for people that had no roads. He didn't have to do it. He did it out of his heart. He does it all the time. So what he could do is he improves the places that are around him. We did live in Hawaii because we didn't want to live in cold weather anymore. I don't see the harm or the crime in that. That has nothing to do with anything. We moved our kids to put them in a better place instead of being in an inner city at the time, to raise them in nature. That's why we did that. So I just want to defend anything that you think is really harmful. We're not those type of people. You could, of course, vilify us, and that's what you want to do because that's what you want to see. And I just want to be able to say my piece. And I do understand your side. I promise you. I also have a place in New Jersey that's on a lake, and I understand community, and I understand loud noises and neighbors. I get it. Even in Hawaii, there was somebody that had their light on all the time, and I had to constantly tell her to turn off her light so I could sleep with the window open. So I understand your concerns.
She can talk. She's the applicant.
I understand your concerns. I will make this short. I know everybody wants to get home. This is really nice of everybody for coming here and volunteering and taking the time out of your nights. But I just want to be able to say, I wasn't even going to talk. My son was going to talk, but I want you to know we're not villains. We understand what your concerns are. We live in a neighborhood. We've always lived in neighborhoods, but we also feel like we want to be able to have people come from outside of the inside of the inner cities to nature. And you can groan and moan and you cannot understand it, but it's very hard to live in the city all the time and not have a place to have an outlet. That's how I feel. And my husband and I are runners, and we've donated so much to running. It's because we want people to feel good. That's how we feel. That's what we're about. So you could, again, and he called it Club Fed because he made the best out of a bad situation. He was in a jail. He wanted to feel good with camaraderie. And that's why. And he didn't forge any signatures. He didn't even owe anybody money. There was no reparations. There was nothing to be said that was bad about him. I'm just letting you know. He got caught up by firing somebody that did software for him in India. And the guy got 50 people a day to write bad Yelp reviews. We were #1 on Google, went all the way down to page 16. And that's not fair. That he was the victim. And I want you guys to know that. That's what you should know about Michael Arnstein. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No comments, please.
Just before Brad speaks, I just want to bring this down to, it's not personal. This is a site plan review. And the planning board has reviewed the issues of the site plan, specifically the stream crossing. That was done by DEC. The DEC has approved that. They have more power and more ability than our planning board. They approve that. The site plan review has to do with a permitted activity. This is a commercial district and commerce is permitted in it. Our job as a planning board is to get that commerce to fit in the community as best as possible. It is permitted. It can be done, and it can be done right. And the other projects we've had before us that the community has always been against because they feel it's going to hurt the community. It turns out when it's done right, if you take Waterfall Way, which are a bunch of old buildings, collapsed, condemned, messy looking place, is now a beautiful place. Somebody's put millions of dollars in it. It is beautiful. It enhanced Woodstock. So please understand that Woodstock is a growing community. We're lucky. You go out to Phoenicia, go west, those communities are dying. We're a growing community and we have to deal with it. And the board knows that. We understand traffic. We deal with these issues, but we're a growing community and we're just trying to make it fit within the confines of the code, which it does. There are no variances required here. It's all permitted. So please, it's not personal. This is a site plan review. We're concerned about the fire pit. There's no more fire. It's a gas controlled flame. It's not wood. There's no sparks. There's nothing like that. So please just keep your questions, or we've had your questions, but Brad will answer some of your concerns, but this is not a question of affordable housing. Affordable housing questions for the town board to deal with, not the planning board. You know, affordable housing we know needs to be here, but unfortunately, nobody is willing to build affordable housing
And lose money.
and lose money. It's just not happening. So please, Brad, if you can answer some of the questions, but this is not a personal issue.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Victoria, Sam, seriously, that comes from all of us.
Thank you.
These all these work?
No, you can just, you're good up here. We're good. It's just the audience.
You want me to sign?
No, you don't need it. You're good. It's right there.
Does it work?
Yeah, but you don't need it.
I don't need it. Okay, all right.
We're all located right here. It's fine. It's just out there. So
Well, I feel like I should stand up.
okay.
So about 20 years ago, I was in this room and I spent years here when there was this god-awful Lally colony in the middle of it. And that was for Woodstock Commons. And that was to produce affordable housing, intergenerational campus for seniors. My mother lives there. She's celebrating 11 years there. She just turned 88. Affordable housing for workforce housing, families, and seniors. And I spent 4.5 years in planning for that project in this room. And some of those times went to midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning.
You bet.
Absolutely.
We put in our time and we built that project. And when it was done, one of its opponents applied for housing. All right, so this is a different project. I 100% believe in this project and these people. The Arnsteins are a beautiful family, and it's my honor to work with you. And thank you, everybody, for all your hard work. So I could go on for a long time. I'm not going to. I'm not going to take you any later than we have to go here tonight. We've been working on this project for several years. I believe in it. I designed it to the best of my abilities. I know that Woodstock Way, which is also our project, was a local AIA Design Award-winning project. And my understanding is, and I've done my homework with the police department, there have been no noise complaints there. None. And they have a fire pit. It's a wood-burning fire pit. And there's been no problems with that either. So we have a propane burning fire pit here. It's going to be in the middle of property. It's going to be well managed. There is going to be on-site management.
Yeah.
It is going to be either remotely controlled or we'll have a switch. Be like turning on your microwave or whatever. It's going to be a very controlled flame in a UL listed design fire pit. Okay. I'm not going to answer your questions. I'm here to speak. That's all. But I am answering some of the things I've heard about the traffic study about being before COVID. It was in July 2023. And it showed that there were no traffic impacts any more than what was there before when there were 5 units, 5 residents in 4 buildings. So, and then I'm going to, unfortunately, I'm really sorry that Lisa couldn't be here.
She's back there. She
Oh,
snuck
hi.
in.
You are more than welcome to speak. So Lisa and I are Chopin Architecture,
No,
working
no worries.
together on a number of projects. And she's done a phenomenal job designing and it's called Woodstock Gardens for a reason. It is a legitimate garden. It's going to have food gardens. It's going to have fruit trees. It's going to have pollinator gardens for bees and butterflies and birds.
Organic.
Yeah, organic.
Yes, organic.
Organic.
All of us. Oh, no comments from the public.
Hey,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, guys.
Okay, but I also wanted to just address a couple other hot button issues. Namely the neighboring, the contiguous person to the private drive. We do not have to have a signed agreement with him. That is, if Alec Platt, our attorney, was here, he would explain it better than I can. We never, I don't believe we ever said we said we had a signed agreement. We don't have to have a signed agreement with him. We do not have to have legally. And Alec, am I right? He says I'm right. I have a statement from Alec. So the
That's correct.
declaration, sorry?
That's correct.
The declaration of, which we've been through this. The declaration of road maintenance is very short. Maintenance does not require the adjacent property owners to sign off on. As the easement holder, we have a right to use the easement and improve it so we can make beneficial use. Our August 1st letter included case law citations in footnote 3, confirming that we have the right to repair the road as proposed. Indeed, we as the easement holder have the obligation to maintain the easement, not the underlying property owner. That's easement law 101. I will note, maybe some of you folks know how the horrible shape that road has been in. No offense to the adjacent owner, but he does not maintain his properties very well. And as a result, they're pothole ridden. The bushes are growing up so that you can't, it's dangerous coming out of it right now, but it's going to be very safe when we get there, right?
Yep.
So no more, there's no traffic increase whatsoever. There's just none. We studied it. We commissioned Creighton Manning to do this study. We've taken a lot of care in designing these buildings to be much shorter than what the regulations allow for. They have small footprints. They are spread out along the edges. We have plantings. We have fencing. Everything has been designed to be designed correctly and environmentally safe. We are a green architecture firm. I'm a lead AP. I've been that way for 20 years. I believe strongly in environmental soundness in the designs that we do. It's an absolute top priority for us, and that's what's going to happen here. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm just going to wrap it up there. You know, we've done everything we can to make sure that this project is designed responsibly and to the very best of our abilities. I would just say that, you know, Woodstock is not a very old town. It doesn't go back to the Dutch era, really more than just maybe a couple of houses here or there. So everything's new here. This is the artist community. Artists come up here. Musicians come up here. They come up here year after year from New York City and elsewhere, and they fall in love with it, and they end up moving here. So, you know, hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, inns, short-term rentals. That's sort of what brings people up here and gets them interested in Woodstock and the Catskill Mountains. So this is something else. It's 7 units. It's not huge, and we're going to do it the absolute best way, straight on through construction, and they are going to be good neighbors. They are going to be good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Comment? Guys,
Hey.
no more in the audience, please. You can go outside if you want to talk. This is Sam.
Yes, Sam. I've been.
He doesn't need, you're not, it's not going to do anything for you. The microphones are only for Zoom. Then you have to speak now.
Okay, sorry. So I've been working with my father since well, I was a little kid. For a while, he was always doing business projects and as well as nonprofit projects, especially with charities and the Woodstock Food Festival. So growing up, I didn't really get to see him as much, and later in life, around like 15 years old, after we moved to Hawaii, he started to work with me more. At that point, business was in New York. We lived in Hawaii, so we actually wasn't able to spend more time with him because we were away. And it worked out because he wanted to connect with me more over his own interests. And real estate wasn't really a big thing for me. He was always interested in like looking at places and finding cool areas to really improve within his personal life. But I remember we always came to Woodstock like every year, and it was a really fun experience. It was tough coming out sometimes. There was one year where we couldn't find anything, so we just decided to camp in the woods. That was actually a cool experience. He always said he wanted to live out here one day, which is why he was originally interested in property. He actually was interested in living out here. Some things changed in his life, and he wanted to maybe reconsider that. So he thought maybe keeping a placeholder or at least helping the community in some sort of way by bringing other people out here and bring business. He likes to improve areas that he goes to. And I really don't think he's trying to tear anything down. He wants to help out as much as he can. And he wants to also connect with me in a way by having me on the project and helping out and hearing people out and really trying to improve wherever we can. Because he does things his way, but he also looks at me sometimes and he's like, well, he sees me as someone that listens a bit more to people. So I think that's why he has me here today to help out with that. And I'm here to listen, and you definitely had really good points. And I'm going to talk with everyone I can about this. And just, I'm not the best at talking as much. I'm more of a listener. And I definitely, I want to make everyone happy, and I don't want to upset too many people here. So that's about it for me right now.
Thank you.
Melissa, do you have any phone calls or letters? We have.
You guys received everything that we got. Lisa, do you want to talk? This is Lisa who does the hardscaping and landscaping. She's done all the garden
Yeah, I'll just
design.
talk for, I'll keep it brief. So,
Guys,
you know,
stand in the
in,
audience, you can't talk. If you're talking, go outside.
in the work of development, not many people are willing to invest into doing full-on ecological landscape and hardscaping and pay for it. So it's really a rare thing to have a client and a person who is concerned about that as being integrated deeply into the project. And as far as organic, I'm not sure how much you really know about organic, but there's about 3,500 chemicals that are allowed to be used when somebody's certified organic. So the work that I do is considered biological or ecological, which a lot of people consider beyond organic. It is time consuming, it's labor consuming, it's not as fast as when you dump a lot of chemicals on a landscape. But what we are doing is also about water management and pervious versus impervious surfaces. The tree planting plan that I did has, I think there's 15 native species just in trees. And then we're also gonna have hundreds of species going in of shrubs and forbs and grasses and perennials. So to have somebody who is willing to invest in the landscape, which square foot wise is what, like, what's the square foot of the building footprint versus the landscape?
Oh, it's like 8 or 9 to 1.
So, you know, 8 to 9 times more of this property is going to be developed in ecologically responsible ways that will increase biodiversity and increase the chance for a robust life for all living things. So that's what I got for you.
Thank you. Back to Chairman Cross.
Before I close the public hearing, I just want to thank the public for expressing your views and your opinions, and that's why we have public hearings, to hear what the public has to say. This is a hearing over a site plan review, and most of your concerns are more general about affordable housing. That's not in front of us, and I understand that's one of your big issues. And the other issue is when something happens in your community or in your neighborhood that is very concerning. And we deal with that with most projects that come. And we do our best to make it work out in the end, as Woodstock Commons has. The people in their Woodstock Commons were all against it, said their houses would go down and the real estate would go terrible. All the prices have gone up. Everything's fine. There's no traffic problems. So if it's designed right and done right, it'll work right. And we're glad to hear your comments, and we listen to them, and we understand your concerns. We really do. And the planning board has listened to all of that, and we'll take it into consideration. So thank you. And I would like
Can
to.
I ask one question of Brad? How are the gardens going to be managed? Is she going to continue to be on staff on a regular basis?
Yeah, well, Lisa, is that correct?
I'll oversee, but they'll be, you know.
I mean, somebody's got to be.
Like there's a housekeeper and a gardener.
Yeah,
That's the question. There'll be somebody maintaining fruit trees. and
Those are
whatnot.
jobs that will be created in
Okay.
terms of maintaining the property.
Thank you.
Any other board members have questions or statements to say?
Just ask one question of the planning board, a
No.
general question?
No, we've heard it from the public. I'm going to close the
Well, this
public
isn't an
hearing now.
opinion, it's just a
You
question
can write your questions in to the board if you want later.
that you'll just dismiss.
All right, so I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
You guys can stay. We're not done.
You can stay.
Stay. We're not done. Public hearing is done. You're not done. Stay. Make a motion to approve the application.
Yes. Sure. Make a motion to approve the application pending draft resolution.
Second.
Wait a minute. What are we voting here?
Approving the application.
Approve the
pending draft
application, just the
I'm sorry.
application,
She's
pending
harassing me.
draft resolution.
She's
That
harassing
means
me. She just
approving
insulted
the
my
project.
son.
The plan, the plan.
I think we need to have further discussion.
Say what?
I think we need to have further discussion to see
On the
if
plan.
anybody has concerns that they wish to pursue based on the public hearing.
Okay, well, there are two issues that
Guys, can you?
we
just
call
take it
out of
outside?
that. One issue is access under the Como,
Yes.
which seems to be one of the issues.
That's one of the issues, absolutely.
And I agree with John, it's a public property, so anybody can walk on it. From there, you can go to Sled Hill and park on the bottom of Sled Hill and walk on it. But I
Is-
also agree with Como stewardship that walking all over the place isn't great either, so it needs to be somewhat
Okay, so
controlled.
what I want to suggest is that the proposal needs to answer the questions concerning that access. If they are willing to build to the corner of the parking lot, it ought to say that.
How would that function?
They want them to.
They want them to
extend a
build,
trail from their end of their property up to the corner of the parking lot to encourage the people who stay at the motel to use that trail, not be
Right.
on the.
and the question of whether the public can access it
I mean, I'm not sure what the cost of
It's a
something
real
like that is
question.
or what.
No, it's not.
Well,
No, it's not.
well, unless you have a cop standing there, you're not gonna be impactful.
Sure you are. You're gonna have a gate that's controlled at
Okay.
the south side.
At both ends,
Yeah, and I put that on the plans.
okay.
the other
So they're
thing,
in front
Judy,
of
is
the
that I would
fence.
think the Como committee has to make a say on that. They either don't want anybody entering their property and therefore they want a gate and no entrance on their property, or they have to find a way to. We can't.
It sounds like what they're saying is they actually want it to be a decided trail so that it can.
So people are
It can
encouraged to do it
encourage
the right
people
way.
not to wander off of it, which a trail does do. You know, I use trails all the time. I don't wander to get poison ivy in the woods. So, you know, it's helpful that trail. I don't know if that's a costly thing or not. I'm not sure what the distance is from the end of your property to the corner of the parking lot. If we're talking about just like a simple gravel trail, is that like something?
But my
Probably, but
question
they
is.
have to get up, they have to get up the embankment, and that's.
But that's on their property. They already have that. They're doing that. They're doing this sort of.
Okay,
escort
I'm not sure where the
something.
property line is, so.
But the question is, how can they put a trail on somebody else's property, the Como?
They'd have to
property?
work with the Como, but.
They would have to
work
do
with the
trail.
Como.
The
That's
Como committee would have to put the trail.
Right, but I guess they're asking them to.
Pay for it.
Yeah.
For it, I guess. Yeah, and I don't know what,
They'd have to pay
if
for
they
it.
could present a basic cost of what that would be, because I have no idea. I would think it would be astronomical, but.
I don't think it would be. economic.
I mean, I would imagine.
It's thinly wooded.
It's just a matter of laying down some gravel.
Isn't that beyond the scope?
Yeah, I think it's beyond.
I don't think it is.
I mean,
I
maybe a
think
donation
we
to the
need to
Como
pay attention to it,
to.
given that that's a
good
town
faith.
property.
What
That's
about a
a town
donation
property.
to the Como in good faith?
Yeah, he
that they
does
have access
trails on
to
his own,
that?
because he's a runner.
It's
He
their
loves
property.
nature.
The Como's property.
Right, that's,
Well, we don't
it's
know.
beyond our scope to say what you do when you go over that property line. It's like John said, who's gonna control it anyway?
Well, are you gonna go back and ask the station that has direct access to also put in?
No, I was just simply trying to pinpoint what their two or three issues were that were being repeated endlessly. And that was one. The other being the fire pit, which seems to be addressed in terms of, it has a timer on it. As in like, if you.
It can be fitted.
Go out for
with a
having
timer.
drinks at 11 o'clock
Yeah,
at
you
night,
could put that
turn
in
it
the
on.
resolution.
That's the
You
kind of
probably
thing I
should, because
suggest.
an out-of-town guest might just be like, I'm drunk, going to bed, and leave the fire on. So if it goes off.
I wonder
mean,
if it's gonna be.
If it goes off automatically after.
And what's happening behind the
I wonder if
colony,
it's
and
gonna
the
be
assembly,
remote.
these are separate.
Well, you
issues.
save money on propane too. So,
Like a-
So also in the resolution should be Judy's question as to, that the discussion, that the entrance onto Como has to be an agreement between the Como committee and them.
That's right.
We have to put
They
that
need
in,
to work
put
it
that in the
out.
resolution. They need to work.
Clearly, what Jeff said suggests that they are going to work with you and they'll find a way to make it work.
So legally, I don't think that one property can ask another property to use, I deal with this with subdivisions, every easements, right of ways. I don't think this is an ask. I don't think this is a legal ask of CSAC to ask them to open their property to a public use. I read it, I researched it,
So what does that mean? That they can't have a trail up to it?
And
No.
John,
No.
can I have your driveway?
I think that's.
Because I
really
wanna
good.
park my
I think what they
18-wheeler
want
on.
is to have a good faith conversation about how.
I'm
okay,
being honest.
we'll
Yeah,
put-
but I'm trying to ask what you're saying. Are you saying that their clientele can't go onto the easements onto the Como from their property? Or are you saying that the public can't go onto their property from the Como? What are we talking about?
Well, the second one, no,
No.
we can't control that. There's no, you can't let the public go across their property to get to a public property. No.
Right,
But,
they may or may not be able to prevent it, but
but I
let's be
don't, I
realistic
agree,
about the likelihood that people are gonna wanna do it.
but nor can we, in reviewing this case and this property, say anything about anybody else's property. So it has to be the
Okay.
Como committee and them make some kind of agreement, but the board can't.
And
Make
it
that.
could be that they will
Right.
want to put a gate there that prevents people from going through.
At all, at all.
At all.
What are you
Yeah,
saying,
Get out of
John?
this. You're stepping into some dangerous waters here for the township.
What are you saying? I can't hear you.
John
I'm
doesn't
saying,
think,
I think that we're stepping into some really dangerous territory.
By doing what?
By committing you know how many properties adjoin the Como property?
The Como would have to be fenced in.
I studied it.
No, that's
I
not the
walked the whole
question.
perimeter.
The
There are a lot of
question is,
entrances.
the question
A lot.
is,
A lot.
the question
And
is,
some people,
can they and should they put a gate on the trail so that people can't go down there?
We are.
unless-
They have a gate on the
we
bridge.
are.
They have a gate on the
And you
bridge.
have a fence? Or it's,
no, there's no fence.
There's no
but
fence.
people just walk around the gate.
Well,
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 if
no, they have to get on.
they can
you
do
know,
that at the
Gates on the
parking
bridge,
lot.
right?
how often does that happen now?
That people
Do
go
people
around.
walk on
Well,
this?
the
very-
adjoining-
You look at this thing and it's dangerous. Why would anybody take their life and limbs just to get, well, I want to get down to that.
the adjoining property on the other side of it, which was Mr. Woodstock there owned it, the trail, the Como Trail went across his property for about 40 feet and back on. And they had to get it, they had to correct that.
Yes, they did.
They had to correct that. The trail actually went across across his property and back
Okay.
on, for, you know.
I always say, how many sheds
The-
are built on your neighbor's property?
the
We see it 0.0082.
The reason that I raised it is that the resolution needs to encompass these concerns. We've got to get a propane fire pit
That's
at
in
the
there.
center of the property.
That's in there.
That is turned off during hours that people are not supposed to be using it.
That was in there.
So,
And it was dealt with at the last meeting.
okay. Similarly, they need to come to some kind of agreement with Como about what's permitted and what isn't. And if they say that the public can't go on their property, that's legitimate.
Who's the they? Define the they.
If the owner of the property says,
They.
Motel, you said.
if the owner of the property
Yes.
says, people, the public on the Como can't go on, use our property to access Tinker Street. So, okay, you can't prevent somebody from walking around a gate or a fence, but at least you're making a statement saying this is
right.
not a public right of way.
Oh, that's about putting up signage.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is private property.
Private property.
Yeah.
You know, that's just covering your property with that
And
signage.
they have made a recommendation to you that you go through the woods, which is partly their property, I guess. Part of the access to the parking lot, which makes sense to me that your clientele needs to go to the parking lot.
I'm
to
not
get
sure
onto
why
the-
they're, honestly, I don't know why
Because they
they're
don't
even
want people-
asking for a connection from the property line on the top of the suspension bridge and the serpentine walkway to the Como property, to the parking lot. Why?
Because they don't want people to go.
Because the parking lot
through
is where the kiosks
agricultural
are that
field.
show all the rules for using the Como property and the trails and all that. I think their concern is that by building the bridge and by putting 7 units of transient, say roughly 21 people there every weekend, it's
Who are
encouraging.
more likely to use it than.
It's
than
encouraging 21
permanent
people
residents.
to cross that bridge on a daily basis and to go up through the woods to.
But why-
Call it, if there's a trail, the parking lot.
I hear what you're saying, but why wouldn't there it could just be like a written, you know, those, whatever's transcribed on those kiosks can be available to the guests at Woodstock Gardens.
that would be an idea.
Which,
They don't have to walk up there.
No, that would be a very good idea.
you guys
Have
had that
pamphlet-
conversation
To
at our
have
last
that
meeting.
pamphlet available
I mean,
to the guests, yeah.
to compel this developer of this project to spend more money on a path on the Como easement, just so that the guests can go up there and read
So
something.
that they don't
That's
go,
kind of ridiculous.
so that they
So they don't
don't
wander
walk
off
in the
onto
farm
the-
field.
But what do people do now on Como? They walk.
We're
right into where they
solving
want.
a problem that
We're trying-
doesn't
we're trying to-
exist.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you. That's exactly
We're
right.
solving a problem that does not exist. Congratulations, because that's exactly what we just done.
Yeah, I mean, people who are gonna stay here are gonna be very responsible when they go and visit the Como.
All right, I
People are
say
not.
we go back to the motion of approving the application pending draft resolution, and if we see if we have a positive vote.
Well, we have two things to put in the resolution. One is that the propane
That is-
fire
That's
pit,
already in
It's in
there.
there.
That's
I
it.
know, is controlled.
Mhm.
And I agree with John, we can't say what goes on over at this site plan. We have a site plan that ends at the property line. That's the part.
So
of
it does
site
say
plan.
and or a timer. Could you just say and a timer?
I think so.
He,
I
it's
don't-
gonna, he
Some
gave us
method
an
for turning it
example.
off at night.
Yeah, I
He
don't.
It says that it would go off automatically.
Some method of
Because
turning
I'm
it
just
off.
saying, if there's not a hired person there at midnight when the
Right.
wedding party says, let's go to sleep, and
Yeah,
oops,
people
forgot to turn
out there
off
with
the phone.
their
Okay.
cider or
He gave
whatever.
us an example,
And they know
of
when
like
it's gonna
a
turn off.
picture of it, that will be included in the plans to be
Okay.
executed, and it is within the resolution that.
I'm just trying to save you guys from having them come back. That's all I'm trying to say. So if you just remove one word there, it could maybe do it. So if it says and a timer, you know.
So you
should
guys-
At least say, we have responsible guests, but if they're not responsible one night, it has a timer, it goes off.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Brad, you guys agree to put a sign at the end of the pathway across the bridge that says this is Como property and there's the rules of the Como property.
I think it's a great
respectful.
idea, and I think we would do that.
There's a
no matter
brochure in
what.
the
I can add
lobby,
those.
pick it up,
Yes.
enjoy it.
In the rooms.
In the room.
units.
Perfect.
Easily.
All right, just put a sign that says Como property, here are the rules.
And a
And if
brochure
the
would just be
Como
nice.
committee doesn't like it, they'll tell you about
Yeah.
it. No, you won't tell us.
Drafted in consultation with.
Can we
the-
go back to approving the application?
Okay.
I think you covered all
Thank you.
Someone make a motion to approve the application pending draft resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Now you can leave if you'd like. Thank you for your
It's not even, but
time.
most, it's not 8:30 yet.
I told you I'm incredible, and you keep
Right.
wondering
I
why.
remember those nights when it was 11 o'clock.
So do I,
I'm
unfortunately.
sorry. that you didn't know. I try to keep it very professional, and I can't.
What's the other?
I understand.
Yeah, I got.
So you should-
I didn't know that we were voting on it. I didn't hear the steps from yourself.
Correct it with that.
I had no idea I was gonna.
I thought we were voting on
No, just the application. So before we vote, the resolution is later. We're not there, end of the meeting. We're not there yet. You were voting that the application is complete. The application with the planning board is complete pending draft resolution. We vote this on every application. You all said aye, makes sense. Are you done with that?
No, but,
It's in my office when you.
yeah.
And then we go over the draft.
And then we'll go over the draft resolution and reissue.
is not approval of it.
No, your
Okay, sorry.
approval of the application, everything is complete.
That's
with
what I
that.
was trying to get clarified before.
We're not at
This
the
is not
resolution.
approval of the project.
Well,
It's
this is
approval of the
your first
application
rodeo,
being
dude.
complete.
I know, right?
Look, I've only been on this board for 12 years and I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
The resolution is coming up. We're gonna probably add those two things and then vote on it. It's pretty complete right now.
But thank you guys. for your
Thanks,
time.
everybody.
It's right out there.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this over to Judy.
Yes, go the other side.
Yes, we have an application from Peter Cross, and so he is recusing himself.
Good idea.
Required by law. He's on the other side of the table.
Yes,
He's
indeed.
no longer our chairman. Welcome,
No,
Chairman
she
Kerwin. Welcome, Chairman Kerwin.
Okay, and I'm gonna get the map back up, because I've got.
So
the
I
map.
can just bring everybody to the meeting. Peter and Laurel are subdividing the property. We know the drill. We did a site visit, Braden and James and Laurel, and I walked the property, and that she did an incredible job.
I put them through the
You'd be
paces.
proud. So they can talk about it if they want to, or we can let Peter talk, however.
Okay, so this is the same proposal we showed you guys weeks ago as far as the 2 lots go. The only thing that's different is we delineated a very small wetland area, which is the drainage from my pond, which is a man-made pond. And we delineated this area, a wetland area. It's the smallest wetland area I have ever seen in my life. It's less than 1/10 of an acre, which in the Woodstock code doesn't make it a wetland. But I hired a professional, they came in, they delineated it, we flagged it, we located the flag. And the proposed driveway goes through a little section of the buffer of the wetland. So what we've done, according to the Woodstock Wetlands Code, is we took that area that we did go through in the buffer and we doubled it for protection around the wetland. We added double the area around the wetland of the disturbed area, as according to the Woodstock Code.
So Peter, it's that upper part there and my map is not accurate, is that the case?
Yeah, well, this is up here.
On the right, upper right hand
Yeah,
corner.
they call it a pond. It's actually a vernal pool.
Okay,
And this does have a buffer, but the road's nowhere near that.
okay. So all three of those things are there,
Yeah.
the question of the size being something that has to be done.
It was an interesting wetland question because I was trained by the Army Corps manual for wetlands. And under the Army Corps restrictions, it has to be 24 inches of wetland soil in order to be a wetland. And the Army is interested only to prevent stuff from entering into a navigable waterway. And that it's based on the clean water law from 1981 or whatever it was. And that was, the Army is concerned about materials getting into a navigable waterway. The state has their own delineation manual, which is pretty much the same, except one code they have is F22. And the reason I said it's not a wetland because there's bedrock 8 inches down, it's solid bedrock coming down there. And under code of the Army, bedrock, you can't have wetlands. But the state has F22, which says that in 8 inches of soil over bedrock, if any of it is a hydric soil, it becomes a wetland. And sure enough, we cored down and we found little bits of modeling. Modeling occurs when the chemicals change because it's in water. And sure enough, so we flagged it and delineated it. And that's basically the bottom line. We're adding double the protection around it. And, that's all there is to it.
That's why we're in conjunction with the Wetlands and Watercourse permit as requested by our CEO for this application.
So the subdivision is kind of a chunk out of the upper part?
Yeah, it's almost right down the middle. It cuts the property just about in half. It's 24 acres, so it's 14 that we're
14
cutting out and 10 we're
10.
keeping.
Yeah, and the 10 is on the upper corner.
Well, it's actually,
Yeah, but,
the line's gonna come right through here.
oh,
So
okay.
we're keeping, our house is here, we're keeping this.
Okay.
This is the pond we built, but it's not a wetland.
So it's going
It's
right
called
down
open
there.
water.
It's
According
going
to the
right down
manual.
there, and then you've got a road going in on this side, on the lower, below the Little Beaver Hill.
Right, which we have DEC approval for. And
Yep.
quite an expensive way to get across a little tiny creek, but that's the way it's gonna be.
But the point of all of this was, just so you know, when we work with the building department, is the owner will create this access. So if it's in the plan and the exact location, there's no room for the wetlands to be damaged, so due diligence here, but that's where, yeah, where we're at.
And the new owner pays for putting in that new road. In that part, the new owner does that, but it's all gonna be in the form.
But it will all be
They have to
within the
follow
site
that
plan,
exactly.
because this will be filed with the county.
Okay, all right.
But you chose to only make 2 parcels?
Yeah.
One lot, John, and the reason is because the access to it coming from Erie Hill across the DEC approved bridge, if it was 2 lots, you'd have to have a shared right of way all the way. because there's no other access to make, so it have to be the same access, which gets very complicated, because you have a.
Right.
Either do a flag, either do a 25-foot flag lot all the way down and make it a shared driveway, and most people don't like shared driveways for a good reason. You know, this whole
I
thing.
have a
of-
friend who says if you understand the war, share a driveway with a neighbor.
Yeah. and
We
you-
had a case that I feel like educated me on this. No matter what, there's a burden and there's a benefit. And that's like anybody comes in with maps and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit you down and this is what we're gonna talk about. You can't necessarily decide which one you're getting.
Shared driveways have problems because obviously if a tree falls across it and the one owner doesn't give a dang, what's the other one gonna do?
Right.
But, yeah.
You have to have an RMA and it gets.
State law, and that's very interesting. I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Because when the neighbor's tree falls right across your driveway, guess what? They don't have any responsibility under the state law.
No.
No, my
You
sister's
have
still
it
got
all.
the fence right now. in the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other reason, John, is quite frankly, I don't want to see any development. Believe me, I love this property, but one development is enough. 2 lots, I don't want to see.
I'm just out of curiosity, if we had the new zoning code with the net buildable acreage, how much of the property is wetlands and buffers, do you think, roughly?
Well, this wetland is tiny, it's less than a 25th of an acre.
That's pretty small.
The vernal pool is probably 1/4 of an acre, so it's probably an acre and a half.
Okay, so
altogether.
it's not enough, in an R5, it wouldn't make a difference, you could still subdivide further if you were so inclined. But I'm
Yeah.
glad you're not.
Right.
Beautiful property.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And why do you want to do that and not just use the easement you already have? The temporary easement, you wouldn't.
To share driveway.
Oh, that's just simply because whoever buys it can get to the other side where they're putting the bridge in. They can bring equipment in, you know, it's a temporary to bring equipment in to build a bridge on both sides.
Okay.
It's a temporary easement. It extinguishes once the bridge is built. It's just a building.
So this is a wetlands and watercourse permit?
With a subdivision.
Okay.
Subdivision that prompted a wetlands and water. Yeah. So. James and Graydon and I went, did the site visit. If they want to talk a little bit about that, that's kind of where we're at this point.
It was very straightforward. It was all, it's on the map that, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of land here, so there's no, you know, in terms of increasing the wetland, that's great, and then everything else is, does it impact anybody else?
Yeah, and
around
it's
that I
the
can
only
foresee?
possible way to do it because it's not close enough to the.
The only person
lake.
it's impacting is the person who wants to do it.
Right.
So.
So at this point, board, but Chair Kerman, would you like to make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the cross subdivision?
I would like to receive a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I make a motion.
There
Is
we
there a
go.
second?
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Perfect. The crosses. I will be in touch to schedule your public hearing at my earliest convenience.
I hope it's as popular as this one was.
We really know how to we clear out a room here. Nick, can you put that in your article? I'm just kidding.
Bring all your neighbors.
Sorry, Nick.
Okay, what do we got left?
A few things. Chairman Cross is back. Thank you. Vice Chair.
I know Judy worked on the draft resolution for Woodstock Gardens.
No, I didn't, but
But
yes, the one
She
thing.
put some in it, but,
So here's my question. We have the Cohen Wetlands and Watercourse, so we can throw it in or we can do it separate. This is what I heard. I can easily add these tonight. I just flipped it the right way. Fire pit, I'll make sure it says timer. It is in there that it's specifically a propane fire pit. With the attached plans, we'll have an example of the fire pit that's going to be used that they have given us, so it's there. And what I also heard was a sign acknowledging the Cuomo as a kiosk. I can add that tonight, done.
Say that again.
Drafted in cooperation with the Como Oversight Committee so that the wording makes clear what the rules are.
Well, they should have, they're saying they would provide some type of literature at the motel about pretty much like.
Right, they're gonna do like a hand, I
like,
felt like it was
type out
like
what's on the kiosk
like
up there.
like a packet when you
Right,
enter.
like,
Yeah, in the
these are
room
the,
probably.
please respect.
They
the
already said they were
Como,
gonna do that,
The
yes.
paths are, start at. the
And that's
Como.
within the resolution. It says, like, we have asked for details of check-in, and so it's all listed and will be signed with the final plans.
Right.
But they're gonna put a sign at the end there.
Right, but do
Says you're
you,
entering
You are
Como
now
property
entering
and
the
here are the
Como
rules.
yes,
property.
but my
Please
question
respect
is,
the Como.
as John's concerns were.
No, I just know I'm concerned. Have we ever done that with any other property touching? the
See,
Como?
I'm okay
But we
with
never entered
putting,
it.
I'm okay with putting it in the resolution. I don't know if I'm comfortable with telling that it has to be confirmed by Como
No, I
Advisory
wasn't
Committee.
suggesting confirmed by it. Drafted in consultation, so they have input from the committee about what it ought to say. It's not the same thing as approved by the committee.
True.
True, and Como has the right to preserve the trails and stuff.
They have the right to preserve the trail.
Okay, so how?
I think the difference is that the rest of the abutting properties do not have a trail going onto the Como property. They may or may not be violating, clearly they are, they're having problems with this.
And they can enter the pavilion and bathrooms and everything that are down by the soccer fields, right? They can
I
use
mean,
them.
in particular, they don't want.
I know you
problem
are.
is-
Squatters is all I'm thinking.
I'm only kidding.
All our
A
homeless
brand new
population.
bridge to
In
go to
particular,
the
they don't
Como.
want
So
people
that
walking in
should,
a farm field.
like,
And that's a
require
legitimate
something of like,
thing.
hey, be respectful, guys. That's all it's gonna say.
That's-
So
Be
here's our
respectful around the
choices.
Como. So,
I can do this, or I can rework the resolution and you can vote on it at the next meeting. What would you like me to do?
I'm fine with what the wording we come
Read
up
what you
with.
got again?
Fire pit controlled, which is basically on there, I'll just add the, whether it be a
Yeah.
timer or, and then, signage,
Signage,
addressing the Como property,
signage and handouts available in the room,
signage and handouts to guests
making clear what the rules are for.
about
the rules
Como.
and regulations of the
Has that ever been done before?
Well, nobody else has a property with a public, with a trail to be used by their
Right,
guests going into the Como.
never. And the funny part is
for
that
There's no
profit,
such thing.
so I
They're
think it's
all
just- I
just
think it's- I
private
think it's just a matter of
buildings.
being
They're
good.
not,
Okay,
they're not
so,
hotels where people are gonna want
Well-
to go there.
but you know what?
and they'll have to give me this, like, I will word it in the resolution where what that sign's gonna be will be given in the final plans.
Okay.
Signage and
Yeah.
handouts to guests about Como property rules and expectations.
Yep.
Done?
I
Yeah.
think they just care that people stay on the trails. I don't think they care that the guests learn the rules.
So should I?
They
Well,
care that
but-
people stay on the.
Maybe I can
That
put
was
et
why they were
al.
suggesting
staying
a
on
trail that
trails.
Doesn't go through the farm field.
But you know, John, in
Right,
answer to
yeah.
your question, we have approved
Yeah.
many subdivisions based on the fact that we didn't take money in lieu of recreation because they were bordering
Yeah,
state
that-
property. And we never said what trail you could take on the state
Mhm.
property.
Absolutely right.
Yeah,
But
that's why
those were
there's,
not
that's not.
public, those were not public accommodations. They were private houses. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah,
if you
it's-
if you live in a place like that, how often are you gonna go into the woods on your? on the
There was
property?
no
How
performance
often are
bond
most people gonna
for
go into the woods?
Woodstock.
It's a-
Guests are gonna go
Yeah.
because it's the only time they get to come.
Yeah, or, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep, all right.
All right, so, Ford, tell me what you want me to do. They good with the two, as I said?
I feel good with you wording it. but-
I feel good with you wording it.
Okay.
Then we'll look at it. If there's a concern, you know.
Okay,
we've got
so
to-
are
Get it
we-
wrong,
And
I'll
it
tell
should
you.
be
That's
about,
the question.
it should be about staying on the trail, not what the rules are.
So that's just, yeah, signage and handouts to guests about Como property rules and expectations at Al staying on trails.
Good.
Okay. So then you can approve this resolution for me to file tomorrow. And the going one. So.
And it sounds
Judy?
like they're smart enough that they're gonna put signs up, but we don't have to require.
And
it.
they talked about it at the last meeting. It was already, yes,
Sorry, it was Rosh Hashanah.
I know it was, my dear, I know. I tried to bring you to speed. Okay, so we have two draft resolutions. We have this one and we have the Cohen. So Judy, you want to make a motion to approve both these resolutions?
I move that we approve both of these draft resolutions. Do we have a second?
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
We see this every once in a while with contentious. I think we're gonna see more and more and more. You guys know we've been doing this for a million years. Thank you for handling it all very well. I hate the personal, like when I get these calls and I'm like, the planning board doesn't need to know their extracurricular activities. Like they bring an application to us. It is not personal. So thank you, Peter, for saying that.
I'm glad his wife clarified.
Well, that's why I felt we needed to give them time to do that. I would have been hysterical if I was either one of them. Like, sorry. Anyway, okay,
No, they
keep
manage
going.
themselves very well.
All right, so
Don't quote
we
me.
have to,
So I need someone to take a ride
I
to.
will,
You
I
will?
will,
I will.
because I was the original site visitor there.
Yes, okay, then we can talk and you can let me know and we'll put it on the next one. It's gorgeous.
Well, they put the road in already.
That's
big
why we
time.
want to give them back their money.
I want,
On
if there's a
family.
road in there, I can definitely visit.
You can, more people can go. Let's give them back their.
Yeah, you
bonds
can
and
drive
then-
down the road now.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
they're building their first house. It's very exciting.
All right, so we'll do that.
So the next one is, I've been trying to clean up a bunch of stuff in the office and there's a bunch of really old escrow accounts that literally have like $2, $3.
I move we
Thank
return
you.
the outstanding escrow teeny little accounts.
Yes.
Seconded. Yeah.
Yay. Love it. Okay, 2025 calendar, if you still want to look at it, or do we want to approve what we got?
I didn't see anything unless there's a
I'm
holiday.
fine with it. I know James
You
brought
did,
up-
and you wrote me back and said the only one that would be a
Yom
problem is Yom Kippur.
Kippur? Absolutely, you don't want to do it on.
So I'll cancel for Yom Kippur. Are we good? Oh, what about Juneteenth? I kind of want to, we don't acknowledge it as a town, but it's a federal holiday.
Let's not do it.
Okay. So
And then
what I
we-
will do, we don't have to vote on it. I'll just create another one and the next meeting we'll vote on it, but I'm gonna wipe Yom Kippur.
But the other one was, what was it, Sukkot, right?
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Or Passover.
Yeah, because it
Not a
was at the
problem.
end of it, so it was, yes,
Passover, first 2 days and the last day,
yes.
and that's an evening event. But the last day, the last 2 days of Sukkot, in the
Yes.
middle of Passover is like, nobody does anything unless they're Orthodox.
Thank you, board.
As long as it's not on New Year's.
You can adjourn, or Halloween. We don't want to do Halloween meetings.
No, we don't want to do Halloween.
All right, how about a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Second?
You always have.
Close enough?
Yeah.
Second. Aye. That's all she wrote?